Yo guys, what's up? It's your boy TRUEDBZZ back with another reaction video. And in today's video, I will be reacting to two videos, one being from Nitro NY and another one being from INZEM. Two very strong FGC players and probably most notably, two very strong Dragon Ball FighterZ players. Both the videos in question I'll be reacting to is basically their explanations on why they haven't been playing in the pro scene of Dragon Ball FighterZ, or at least from Nitro's perspective, why he quit altogether. And INZEM, he has finished his run on the World Tour for this year, with the conclusion of the World Tour being yesterday, as of this recording. So I assume that he's going to be done competing in Dragon Ball FighterZ after this event. So we're going to be seeing what these pro players have to say about Dragon Ball FighterZ. And I will be cutting this into separate parts, so if you guys want to watch the full videos with the full context, I will have the videos in the description down below. As for this video, I'll be reacting to it in full and then cutting and splicing the parts where I think it is most appropriate, or where you guys can get the most commentary from me. But anyway, before we get into today's videos, please hit the like and subscribe button at the end of the video if you enjoyed it. It does wonders for the channel and helps me stay motivated to create more content like this. Also, be sure to check out my links down below. In the description are my links to my Twitter and Twitch, my channel artist page, bossumans on Twitter and TikTok, where he posts artworks and commissions, and my playlists are there as well to provide you with more of my content. Also, just a reminder, please check out Nitro's and INZEM's videos in the description down below for the full context. And with all of that out of the way, let's get into Nitro's video on why he quit Dragon Ball FighterZ.
Reason number one why I quit is due to the fact they made all the skim neutral tools incredibly strong, making them all combo off half a bar and being meter positive. For those who don't know, DBFZ has 7 bars and you gain meter for blocking, attacking, or moving forward. These skim neutral tools' typical property will revolve around projectile invulnerability, going full screen, lightning fast, TLDing, or all of the above. Obviously, these properties are incredibly broken, but to top it all off, they don't have any recovery. The other ones are the half screen normals they put in the game. So that would be like Vegeta, Gogeta, Android 17 auto combo, Ginyu, and Blue Goku, which are their best starters.
Alright, so talking about that, full screen neutral skip tools, both from projectile invul specials and half screen normals, that I agree with can ruin your fun in this game. I feel like the devs know this, but they also understand that most people, like, obnoxious like projectile game just isn't fun for most casual people. Like, most people that play fighting games just wants to get in, do damage, and kick each other's asses. So like, I don't know. I can see why they started implementing more projectile invul moves, even though I also don't agree with this. Don't agree with its direction. I understand it. We have tons of good zoners like Frieza, Super Saiyan Vegeta, Baby. So there's plenty of good zoners now. So, you know, I can kind of understand them making neutral skip tools or projectile invul moves stronger, just because the zoners themselves got stronger as well. But yeah, full screen projectile invul lariats that are safe on block while also being TLD starters, yeah, not the best choice. Not the best choice.
Throughout DBFZ's lifespan, through the ups and downs, there has been one constant. That constant change is the increase in defense or defensive mechanics. A lot of the times you could hear that defense is weak in this game. If you've played DBFZ or at least watched it, you will notice either defensive mechanics that were added or defensive assists or special moves that were added a little bit later. The defensive options vary between the constant RPS will reflect, guard cancel, which costs a bar, or guard cancel vanish that costs 2 bars. Each of them having their own common opportunity to use it. Reflect being a frame 1 option you can use without being block stun. Guard cancel, like the name states, is used on block, and the most recent one, guard cancel vanish, which again, as the name states, is guard cancel with vanish properties that can be plus on block. But moving on from system mechanics, we have defensive assist, most commonly known now as 17 assist, which is an invulnerable barrier that shoots off a plus 35 blast that wall bounces on hit. There are other defensive assists, but this is by far the best one.
So defensive assists, once again, I agree, defensive assists are really annoying. It's kind of funny that it solely relies on Android 17 being the issue. Even though Vegito A was also a very obnoxious defensive assist, but 17A is by far the worst example of it. It's just, my god. Alright, there's nothing left to say here.
The frame 4 invul special move. For example, the fastest button in the game is 4 frames, and there are 30 frames of variable wake up timing. So in other words, if I can jab at frame 24, and if they get up at frame 28 and frame 4, I will lose the interaction on my knockdown, or plus frames if there's anything less than plus 2, which some characters it can lead to a TOD. I think it would be easier just to show you though. It's safe to say I believe the game's defense is way too strong and I would rather not fight it.
I don't... Here's the thing, right? It's very team dependent on whether or not defense is way too strong, because to be fair, Android 17 is really goddamn good at protecting your team and protecting your point character. But even though there are multiple system mechanics that help you on defense, I don't think a lot of them are broken. I don't think Reflect is broken, even though it is frame 1. There's plenty of recovery frames where you can punish and you can throw it. And I know Nitro said you can reflect while you're blocking, but you cannot. There has to be a gap in order for you to be able to reflect something, right? If it's a true block string, then you can't reflect in it. You have to sit there and block. Guard cancel is situational, but most of the time it's a good option. Guard cancel vanish is easily one of the best defensive options in the game, but the caveat is that if your opponent has really good reactions, then they can vanish your guard cancel vanish and essentially be positive in terms of meter, because you're spending 2 bars of meter for guard cancel vanish while your opponent is only using 1 bar for vanish to counter their vanish. So technically you're in meter positivity if you vanish their guard cancel vanish. So like there's plenty of counterplay to the system mechanics that are defensive. Now if we're talking about assist wise, he only brings up Android 17, but like Vegito A got nerfed, DP assists are a thing. I'm very surprised he didn't bring up DP assists. And honestly, the only real DP assist I think has like an actual problems like Adult Gohan. I can't really think of any other DP assist where it's like actually broken. Yeah, I don't know if I agree that defense is too strong. I think offense and defense are relatively equal outside of like the very extreme, which is Android 17 and well, even then I wouldn't even say Android 18 barrier, because hers is just worse in every single way. So it's really just Android 17 and Vegito A. Like I don't know. I really don't think the gap between the offense and the defense in Dragon Ball is that large. I really don't think that's the case.
Playing in DBFZ, people have the option of shooting off beams. These beams have high recovery most of the time, so you wouldn't see them too much full screen since it was very risky. Projectiles in DBFZ are generally split into Ki Blast, the weak projectiles, and beams, the strong projectiles. Now in the early game, if a character whiffed a beam, they were vulnerable very highly and can be punished. But if it connected, you could combo in various ways, and on block, by using a little bit of resources, you can be plus. In a later version of the game, they gave characters with beams the ability to cancel on whiff and hit. So now characters not only did not have to spend resources initially to use the beam, but also have high powered burst options on whiff that can make it very hard for it to punish depending on the range. Characters have a decent amount of special moves, and typically different versions being light, medium, and heavy. With sparking, you can cancel each of those special moves into another special move or a different version of those special moves. In general, it's causing a lot of more damage, and it can look something like this. At that point, it feels like you're interacting a lot less with the opponent and more with the special moves that cancel out because it would be funny.
Okay, so talking about beam cancels, I remember I was talking about this on Twitter. It was a really long time ago. It was like 2-3 months ago. Super dash beam canceling is probably one of the worst changes like they've ever introduced. Not only because of, you know, you can do beam into whiffs, like basically negating risk, reward, and neutral, but the fact that it made basically every character combos like less unique. I would say like the only character that really deserved to have the super dash beam thing as a part of their combos is probably UI Goku and Yamcha. Outside of that, I don't think anybody else needed beam combos. Like I don't have a problem with the specials into special cancel with limit break and spark, because that is a condition that most players, I would say, most top level players won't even interact with at all. I think it might just be part of spark. Anyway, you have to use a resource to get the special move cancel and the special move cancel. So I don't think that's a big deal, especially because some characters actually do thrive on that, and so like it does add a little bit of character variety and does make things a little bit more interesting, especially when it comes to mix-ups, because there's a lot of characters that get like unique mix-ups from the special cancels. So I don't have a problem with the special move cancels with Spark. I used to hate it, but now I'm kind of like, yeah, why not? It's fun. It's for fun. They clearly made most of these changes just for the fun factor.
This isn't just me ranting or trying to talk shit about the game, because I actually enjoyed it and I had fun competing in it. But it took away everything that I liked about the game and everything that's fun about the competition for me. Happy for the people that still enjoy it, and everybody should play what they want to play no matter who likes it.
Alright, so that was a good video from Nitro. Just overall, for the most part, I agree with everything that he said. Now, would I argue that the game has always been like the extreme part of fighting games, like in general? Has like Dragon Ball FighterZ ever been a very fundamentally based fighting game? I don't think so. Like, there have always been strong neutral skip moves, even in Season 1. Even though they weren't projectile invul, they were definitely way too fast for you to react to. Defensive assists didn't really become a thing until, well, no, because a DP assist. So yeah, Adult Gohan, Teen Gohan. But yeah, there's been very strong defensive assists. Super Saiyan Vegeta A, Zamasu A was used defensively in a lot of cases when people did play him. So like all these things, except for maybe the special moves having no recovery and like the risk reward, there was definitely more risk reward when using special moves in the older version of the games. But once again, because of defensive assists being really good, it's not like you could punish them most of the time. If you had Adult Gohan or Teen Gohan or Super Saiyan Vegeta or any beam assist, you couldn't really punish anybody just doing a whiffable special. I would really like to ask people, like, why did they like Dragon Ball FighterZ to begin with? Like, what was the thing outside of probably like the IP itself? Like, what gameplay wise, why did they like the game? Because I can assure you that like whatever they talk about good about the game when it came out, I assure you that it still exists in the game right now. Like I just feel like the game has always been like this, like always been like the crazier extremes of fighting games, and it's just that like more characters are able to do it now. Like I feel like in previous seasons only a select few amount of characters were able to do this, which is why the meta was so fucking like top heavy, right? There was like in season 1 there was only like what, like 6 to 10 characters that were actually like good, and the rest of them literally could not function. Season 2, pretty much the exact same thing, where a lot of characters literally just weren't good or didn't work, and it was very top heavy. And then we finally get to season 3 and the devs are like, fuck it, fine, like fuck it, we'll just give characters new shit to work with. And then people start complaining that the game is unga bunga. Like, did people just only want the top heavy characters to run the game? Like, I don't, maybe that's a different argument, but from my perspective, like, even though these are genuine like criticism of the game, I feel like this is almost the only direction they could have went with in order to make the roster more balanced, is just to make everyone crazy and give everybody cool shit to do and powerful moves. Like, I don't know. But yeah, that's Nitro's video. Relatively short in terms of length. Now we're gonna talk about, now we're gonna go on to INZEM's video on why he is quitting Dragon Ball FighterZ competitively. Thank you everyone for making it this far into the video. Just gonna take a quick break to do some shoutouts. First, shoutouts to my friends' channels. Please consider checking them out as they provide a variety of content, so at least one of them will have something that you'll enjoy. Second, if you live near the York, PA area, please head down to Ready Up Gaming Lounge. It's a place where gamers from every genre can come together and play in a comfortable and chill environment. They are open from 11 AM to 8 PM every day and hold dedicated events every week. For my channel's interest, they run Fighting Fridays, where for $5.30, you can play a multitude of fighting games with various players. They have big games like Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, but they also have niche games like Dragon Ball FighterZ, Guilty Gear Strive, Rivals of Aether 2, and more. Finally, shout out to all my supporters on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. You guys really make doing content fun and worth pursuing. Alright, back to the video.
Why I'm quitting competing in Dragon Ball FighterZ.
Also, sorry, the quality is really bad. I'm running it at 1060p, but I guess the footage he's using is like at 360, so I'm sorry if it looks really blurry.
The first thing is the big neutral skips in the game. The game is extremely unfun when you're trying to play the game and trying to play honest neutral. Everyone likes that word, keyword, honest, jingle jingle. And you just get jump scared from across the screen. Like, whether it's a full screen lariat, which has been in the game for a while when I felt like the game was honest, so that's not all of it. It's really like the full screen lariats that also have a whole bunch of invul stacked on top of it. Being able to instantly go across the screen and kind of just ignoring any threat of being checked when you make that decision, because you know it's involing through a lot of stuff, and you get a lot of reward for these moves. It's not like we're in season 2 or season 1 where you get hit by like Bardock's lariat, you get jump scared and it's just like, oh, well, I'm about to take like 30% max. No, like if you get hit by some of these moves in this game now, you kind of just explode. Like you might just get TOD'd. It happens pretty often too. There's a lot of characters doing it now. Like the fact that there's so many characters who can do it and it's just becoming a new norm is really not that good. It's really unfun. Typically in versus games you cannot call your special move, or you cannot call your assist while you're doing special moves, excuse me. And that is really huge because it makes moves like lariats, like what Dragon Ball is known for, not nearly as strong. And I actually like Dragon Ball. I like the fact that you can call your assist while doing special moves in Dragon Ball. But it starts to become an issue when these special moves themselves are so overtuned. And if you really want to win, like some players, you also use these overtuned special moves with overtuned assists that shall not be named.
So once again, we're talking about neutral skip moves. I'm surprised he didn't talk about normals as well, because that's a pretty big topic. But him talking about specifically special moves like lariats. Once again, I agree that lariats are really strong in this game. Which I'm surprised Nitro didn't bring up in this video. The fact that you can call assist behind lariats, like beams and stuff. And I'm pretty sure the assist he was talking about was Android 17A. But yeah, like I pretty much agree. Like the neutral skips are obnoxious in this game. It being the new norm, I don't know if I would say that's necessarily a bad thing, because a lot of the reasons why characters in previous seasons weren't strong was because they could not play neutral. And I feel like Now, once again, this might be a little bit biased, but a lot of pro players play characters that have already had that advantage in neutral, right? So when they're talking about the game, they're not thinking about the lower tier characters that didn't have those options to begin with and had to get buffed over several seasons to get moves like this so they can compete with them. But at the same time, you could argue that, let's just say, for example, like Krillin, his neutral was not that great for a long time. He had a good beam, but his key blasts were really slow. You couldn't really combo off them at all. His combos off Vanish weren't good. But over time, Krillin got rejumps. He got beam into super dash. He can combo way easier with rejumps now. So like now that Krillin has access to these types of moves, now he can compete. But people say they don't like them, but yet a lot of the people that complain about them also use these moves and have characters that they like that also utilize these moves. Like, I'm not saying INZEM is being a hypocrite, but like his favorite character that he's mentioned, or one of his favorite characters, is Base Vegeta, and he's always been really good in neutral and has tons of neutral skips even before his wide variety of buffs. Even when Base Vegeta came out, he always had his lariats, he always had a cross-up lariat, he always had a key blast that came at awkward angles that it was difficult to contest. He always had a destructo disc that was hit convertible with Vanish. They always was able to be angled. Like, Base Vegeta always had moves like these. So like, the fact that characters can do that, and so it evens the playing field, I don't think is necessarily an issue. I just think that I feel like the invul property is the problem. I don't think it's a problem that these moves exist. I think it's the I think he did say this earlier. It's the invul properties, right? And even then, a lot of the neutral skips, or most of the problematic ones, do have invul, but like it's only to like a very specific thing. So there is counterplay to them. It's just really goddamn hard. But yeah, I agree that overall neutral skips are a problem. I just don't know if I would say it's enough to make the game, like, when people talk about, oh, you could just neutral skip, like there's tons of movement options in the game now. Moon jumping, super jump floating. Characters have actual projectiles now. Most of them got buffed in recent seasons. Like, characters have ways to maneuver around these moves. So I don't know. I don't know if I would say like these things are a bad direction for the game to go, because like I said when I talked about Nitro's video, these extremes are one of the reasons why why people got drawn to Dragon Ball, is because it didn't play like fighting game fundamentals, you know. It was more on the extreme side.
Normals are just way too strong. Like, it is insane how strong normals are. The special case characters of the older patches, like your Kid Buu, your Majin 21s, your characters who had noticeably really long normals, that was kind of their special trait, and more often than not, they're giving up something because of that. Like in Majin 21 case, her lights were really bad. They didn't really go too far. Her 2L was pretty good, but outside of that, her jail was really bad. Her 5L was pretty bad. They didn't go that far at all. In return, her mediums went really far. Kid Buu, he's just a cheater. I'm not gonna lie. I don't have an excuse for that. His neutral wasn't the best, I guess. Blue Gogeta, he obviously is missing a lot of stuff as a character, at least before, with like frame data, with like safety and neutral, which is neutral control in general. But in return, oh, you have this half screen move, so good luck with it. Now in today's game, all these characters have these moves. Like SSJ Goku, 2M and 5M are going across the screen. Vegito is pressing 5M that goes across the screen. You're getting hit scanned. Like, I will always stress this. He has a tracking hit scan TOD normal that hits 14 frames. Think about that. It's tracking and it hit scans you, and it's 14 frames, and it's a disjointed projectile, and a TOD. There's so many properties on one move. It is insane. Like, I cannot stress how crazy some of these moves are in this game now. Because when neutral, they really did not earn it like 99% of the time anymore. And as the opposing player, it feels even worse because you feel as if even if you are better than the player and you feel like you're outplaying them, it doesn't really matter if they just kind of teleport to you, and if you're trying to do anything, you might just lose the character.
So yeah, the neutral skip, normals, pretty much the exact same thing. I agree with it. I don't know. The extremes are the fusions, obviously, and 17 and stuff. The point that he was making with 21 and Kid Buu does have some validity to it, even though they were obnoxious in previous seasons for their medium normals. But then again, they often won neutral way faster, and so even though their stubby lights were an issue per se, whenever they did hit you, they got you into a level 3 or got you down to a knockdown to where they can use their stubby normals for staggers and mix-ups. So I really don't feel like that really mattered.
Is something not a lot of people talk about, which I'm a bit surprised. Only a few people talk about this, but it's how easy comebacks are.
Yes.
Comebacks are so easy in Dragon Ball. It's kind of crazy. Like, and it's only because of one simple fact. And outside of, you know, neutral being very volatile, so even if you're at a deficit, as long as you have a character who could just jump scare you, you only really have to be right like once or twice from full screen. But it's the amount of damage these characters do. Like, characters hit way too hard. Like, it is absurd how hard characters hit, especially when they're by themselves. So they have limit break, which is already a 50% damage bonus. I forget which one it is. Which a lot of people didn't like when they first got introduced anyways. And now with the level 1 into level 3 that every character can do, some characters can even do like level 2 into level 3, some characters can do level 1 into level 5, level 2s into level 5s. It's just like, you could be winning and have a considerable lead, and let's say you get hit by something random. Let's say you get hit by a key block. Let's say you get hit by a 5L. 5L's back. You get hit by a light. You would legit lose like 90% off a light. Like, it happens to me all the time, and I'm just like, what was the point of me getting this lead if you're going to hit me with one of your worst starters and almost TOD me? Like, why does somebody gain such a huge advantage because they're losing?
Yeah, he makes a fantastic point. Fantastic point. This is probably one of my biggest issues with Dragon Ball right now, is the comebacks are way too fucking easy. Not only have combos have gotten easier thanks to special cancels, characters' damage have gotten way higher through various buffs to frame data and stuff like that. Neutral skips often lead to 50% because of rejumps being simplified and stuff like that. Assists all being universally easy to combo off of. It's just like, comebacks are way easier than they used to be. And this was a couple years ago, and I made like an hour-long video just ranting about limit break and how the game rewards you for losing. I'll have a link to this in the description for that video. But yeah, I had a whole video of me talking about this topic in particular, that comebacks, more specifically limit break, and like why comebacks don't feel good in this game, because it's just way too damn easy.
It's the level of competition, and what I mean by that is this game is pretty old. There's a lot of people who's come and gone, especially in recent time, and among a lot of those players are players who kind of are like my generation of players, kind of, so to speak, which is like the players that like I competed against. Like when I went to tournaments, like the common faces, I saw the common top players, and basically majority of them already quit the game. Like your Wawas, your Nitros, your Preds, your Hooks, like they don't really play the game anymore. Like Sonic Fox, Sage. Take everything I say with a grain of salt, because at the end of the day, the way I look at the game is going to be a lot different from majority of people due to just the amount of experience I have on the game and how long I've been playing, and just the little factors, right? Because to a casual player, this game could be amazing, and I still think this game could be amazing, and is amazing for a casual player. And I imagine a lot of people still do have a lot of fun, whether they're first starting to try out the game or they've been playing it for a while, and maybe not the high enough level to start having issues with the game, at least these issues. So take everything I say with a grain of salt.
Alright, so this one is more specifically made for his type of community. I'm definitely not in the 0.1% of players, but I do agree about, once again, I do agree with the points that he's making about the game and like why people would leave because of it, you know. So I do agree. I don't think the stuff that he's talking about only affects the top level of players. I think the stuff that he talks about does affect casual players. It's just that like casual players accept that this is what the game is, and if they're going to play a game like this, then they had to accept that and they find fun within that boundary. Whereas pro players and I would say more older players of Dragon Ball are always kind of wishing it could go back in time, even though that's not going to happen. And it's like what he said before about all the previous pro players leaving, is just that they just said this isn't a game for me anymore and they just left. So, you know, all the things that Nitro and INZEM so far have mentioned does affect people on the casual level. It's just that most casual players, even the ones that played since day one, like he said, doesn't really have that mentality of like, this stuff is ruining my experience. They just accept for what the game is. And in most cases, these things that the devs made to Dragon Ball are direct buffs to characters that casual players play the most. So like, people like us might complain about Blue Gogeta, but a casual player who's like, I love Blue Gita and Blue Jito, and I love MVP 17. Like, I love these characters, and I want to play them on the team, and they can be strong. Oh, a patch came out, and they got stronger, and I get new combos. Oh, sick, right? Like, they don't really think about like the application of these changes and what they mean for the larger scale of the game. They just think, oh, my character got buffed, I can do this combo now. Oh, that's sick, you know. So it definitely affects different players at a different level.
I still do plan on entering Dragon Ball, but it won't be I'm practicing the game every day. It's kind of just going to be me trying to remember to recall my skills and see how well I can do, which I still think I can do pretty well, like with just doing that. Because I would like to say the best player in the game for a while. So that you don't easily lose that knowledge, even if the game changed. So I imagine I would still do pretty well, and that's just for the people who do want to see me compete, because it's nice, you know. I know I make the game look cool. So, but yeah, that's where I'm at. This is all the reasons why I'm quitting competitive Dragon Ball. The decision's been made for a while now, and it's kind of been in action for a while now.
Alright, that was another great video by INZEM talking about his experience with Dragon Ball and why he won't be competing in the game anymore. So the final thing I'll say about both videos is that I agree with the majority of the points that they made on their own terms. I do agree that special moves are really strong in this game, especially projectile invul moves. I also agree that normals are too overtuned. A lot of them don't have significant enough recovery to compensate for the fact that they all go a very far range across the screen. A lot of key blasts are broken. I agree that I would say I kind of agree that defense is too strong, but I would say like there's like a very few amount of characters that can abuse that defense. I think majority of the time the overall defense and offense of Dragon Ball is pretty similar. It's just that like those extreme characters are like the thing that tips the defense a little bit higher than the offense. But I think for majority of the characters in the roster, it's not that big a deal. Oh yeah, comebacks in sparking and limit break and all that. I've already made several videos about that mechanic. You guys know how much I hate that mechanic. But yeah, I agree with everything that they said. My question is, I doubt they will ever see this video, but if you guys are watching this video and you made it far into this video and you guys have seen both those videos in full context and have seen my responses to their points, what would you guys have done over the lifespan of Dragon Ball FighterZ? Because in my opinion, like I said before, Dragon Ball FighterZ to me was always about the extremeness of a fighting game. They always played with how far can they get with certain character archetypes, certain character move kits. Like, the Dragon Ball FighterZ devs have always been okay with pushing the bar a little bit too far with characters, right? Whether or not they were strong in the game or not, right? Bardock was a clear example of like a neutral dominant character that had supreme Oki and crazy frame data. And even a character like Broly, who was very weak when he came out, he still had stuff that was very unconventional for a fighting game character, right? He had some of the best zoning in the entire game at the time because his Ki Blast got beat. His Ki Blast had high durability. He has armor on his command grab. He has armor on a lariat. He could do multiple level 3s in one combo. His normals, even though it did whiff on small characters, were really big, and its frame data were actually not that bad, all things considered. Like, even in that dichotomy where Broly was like really not that good and Bardock was the supreme god of the game when it came out, the devs were clearly fine with implementing moves and normals and stuff like that that pushed the bar farther than most fighting games were able to push. And the fact that it's a problem that most characters seem to have these moves to even the playing field is a little bit weird to me, because where else, and I'm not talking about system mechanics. System mechanics is a whole different situation, but I'm talking specifically about character kits, right? What could they have done to make the game more fun while also not making it this degenerate, I would say, right? Because one of the reasons why a lot of the characters in Dragon Ball were strong was because they were degenerate. And unlike in this in this current patch, a lot of it was very top heavy. And I will stand on this. Dragon Ball FighterZ, for a majority of its lifespan, was top heavy as fuck. It was very top heavy. Once you got out of the top 10 to maybe top 15 range, every character was fucking garbage. It was not close. And of course I'm talking competitively here, but even in the casual sense, some of the characters were literally could not function. They were garbage, especially in season 2, where we didn't get any patches and we basically had to play the same game for like a year and a half, right? It was bad, and it's absurd to me that people to this day say that season 1 and season 2 were the best seasons of Dragon Ball. It is crazy to me because the game was so fucking top heavy. It's insane, right? And it's like people were complaining that the game was top heavy, that you had to play certain characters, otherwise you would get fuzzy to an oblivion, or you would get two-tapped by fucking Teen Gohan and GT Goku, or you couldn't play neutral because beam assists were running the game and stuff like that. You couldn't play defense because UI Goku was season 3, but like you know what I mean. Like, all these things that players complain about now are things that have always been part of Dragon Ball's DNA, and it's just that, do players remember like how bad it was by you not having a multitude of characters to play to like actually compete? Because like for me as a more casual player, I hated the fact that in season 1 and season 2 you could only play like 5 teams maximum, right? But now in the current patch you can play a multitude of teams and compete. Now, to be fair, the extremes, Gogeta Blue, Vegeta Blue, or Vegito Blue, and 17 are among the best teams in the game's history, right? But I would still make the argument that a lot of teams can compete with that team. It's obviously not the best team, but they can compete. I could not say that for a majority of Dragon Ball FighterZ lifespan. You cannot tell me that in Season 2, I could pick up freaking Yamcha, Krillin, and Super Saiyan Goku and compete at a tournament and even get top 32 with that team. You couldn't do it. It was not possible. You could not do it. The only reliable character on that team would be SSJ. Krillin and Yamcha were not good in that season. But now, I have a good likelihood, if I trained hard enough, to play Yamcha, Krillin, SSJ and do pretty well. I might not win Evo with that team, but I can do decently well. And it's because these characters have gotten the buffs that they needed to compete with these other characters that had these degenerate amount of moves. You could argue, well, the Dragon Ball FighterZ devs team could have did the opposite and just nerfed everything to the ground and make it more quote-unquote honest. But that wasn't why people played Dragon Ball FighterZ. People played Dragon Ball FighterZ for the extremeness that other fighting games didn't had to contend with. Dragon Ball FighterZ was always about playing Dragon Ball characters, having extreme and fun moves to do, and having fun combos and crazy mix-ups and stuff like that, right? That's always been in Dragon Ball FighterZ blood. And it's weird to me that the more that the game tried to balance around that and make everyone broken, the more players complained, even though the opposite of that would be Season 2, and where it's so top heavy that you had no other choice but to play those characters. And people still hated it. Like, for all of its faults, in the current patch of the game, I would still, honest to God, say that Season 2 was the worst Dragon Ball FighterZ has ever been. The entire season of Season 2 was the worst time to be a Dragon Ball FighterZ player. It was worse. Now, once again, I'm a casual player. I wasn't a pro player, but I will also have to preface that the pro players that were playing at the time also hated Seasons 2 meta. They hated it. Like, you can go back and look at the live streams and look at interviews and stuff like that. The pros hated Season 2. Like, they did not like Season 2. And like I said, it's still bonkers to me that people consider Season 1 and Season 2 the best seasons of Dragon Ball. It's crazy. Those games were so top heavy that if you did not play the right characters, you could not compete. You could not win. It was literally impossible. If you were a Beerus player in Season 1, you were not winning shit. Unless you abused his freaking Ki Blast Infinite, which they took out literally a month into the game's lifespan. So, like, if you were playing Beerus at the time, you could not do it. You could not play him. No matter what characters you played with him. If you were playing SSJ16 with Beerus, it would not work. Beerus literally did not function as a character at the time. Even in Season 2, he was bad. Like, people just forget about how top heavy Dragon Ball FighterZ is, right? Anyway, all of that to say is, I understand the points that Nitro and INZEM were making in this video, and I agree that all the things that they mentioned are problems with the game. But I guess my counter argument to everything that they said would be, character-wise specifically, we know system mechanic-wise, a majority of the player base hate the system mechanic changes overall. I would 100% agree that pretty much almost every system mechanic change needs to be reverted. But character-wise, what were the devs supposed to do in that aspect of making the game more balanced? Because, once again, a lot of the characters that were strong in the seasons that people like had that degenerate ass shit. Like, a lot of them had that. So it's weird that it's a problem when the weaker characters can do it as well. Now, to be fair, to play devil's advocate, the stronger characters also got buffs alongside that, you know, alongside the weaker characters. And it kind of flip-flops between, like, which low tier and what top tier is. And so, like, there's been several changes to the meta. But I would say especially from Season 3 onwards, the majority of the time, I would say the patches for Dragon Ball FighterZ were not made with competitiveness in mind. It was about creating a more balanced environment that every character can play the game. And I think that's the philosophy. I think that's the philosophy the devs went in from Season 3 onwards, is that every character needs to be able to play the game. Every character. Now, it might have taken them a while to make that happen. Looking at Super Saiyan Vegeta and Yamcha, it took them a very long time for them to be good. And even then, Yamcha is still kind of struggling a little bit. But that's the whole goal of their patches, was to make every character playable and to have them have options. And so what other way could they have done that other than give them the moves that the top tier characters had? And it's just like, what would you do in that situation? Is guess my question. What would the Fighters Pros do if they had full control from season 1 all the way to now, and they had to make buffs over the lifespan? And I would assume that if the Dragon Ball FighterZ devs could have made like very small patches, then they would have. I would assume that, especially after season 3, they had to make very big changes, like major changes to the game. I would assume from season 3 onward they had to make a decision like that. So what would they have done? From I guess I would say season 3 onward, because that's when a lot of players say that's when the problem started, even though season 1 and 2 weren't that great either. But let's just assume that every single patch from season 3 onwards had to be a big shift, had to have crazy things inside them to make up for the fact that we weren't getting a lot of characters and content, right? The patches had to be big and grand, right? What would they have done? Because if every single patch has to be big and grand and have to have a significant amount of changes, would the pros go the opposite direction and just keep nerfing shit to the ground? Or what? Because once again, I would assume from season 3 onwards, the biggest thing that the devs were looking for were to make big changes because of the less content we were getting. So I don't know. It's just like, when I hear these complaints about Dragon Ball, the one question I always come up with is, what would they have done? Because from my perspective, this is kind of like the only way Dragon Ball FighterZ could have gone, realistically. With like us getting no new content and characters, it's kind of like the game relies on its patches for content, and if they don't make dramatic changes to the characters and systems, it's kind of like, you know, what are people playing the game for, you know? So I guess that's what I'm going to end off this reaction with, is that I doubt INZEM or Nitro will watch this video, but if you guys watch this video all the way to the end, what would you guys have done from either season 1 to now, or season 3, which is the season most players seem to have the biggest issue with? What would you guys do from season 3 onwards? And every single patch has to be a major change, because pretty much every seasonal patch from season 3 onward which was a big shift in terms of either like 1 or 2 characters, maybe even 4 or 5 getting major buffs, and some getting major nerfs, or a big system mechanic change, or whatever. Every single patch has to be a dramatic shift. That's how I see it, the devs going forward in season 3. Like, every patch has to have something major in it that changes the game. So what would you guys have done? So I leave that question to you guys in the comment section down below. If you guys enjoyed this reaction video, please hit the like and subscribe button, and check out the links in the description to all of my things down below. If you guys want me to react to more fighting game content on YouTube, please be sure to let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to let me know the creators and the title, and I will look at them and see if it's worth reacting to. So with all of that out of the way, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Sayonara.